Hey guys, Blake here. In this video today, we're going to answer some of the most common questions that I receive from buyers, and hopefully this can add some context and maybe some clarity for some of the questions that you may have.
Is it ever too early to start talking to an agent?
I think that's a good question, but maybe the way we frame this is, when would you be comfortable talking to an agent? Because realistically, having a conversation is never a bad thing. And I use that to frame my life in many different instances. If someone's like, hey, here's an opportunity. Would you like to talk about it? Of course. Like, I always want to have the conversation because I might learn something, or there might be something out there that's better for me that I don't already know. So when someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I don't know if I should start having a conversation about buying a house, what I usually would say to them is, well, what's your future outlook for this? Like, how far out are you? And then they're going to have a little bit of conversation with me. They're going to say, oh, I'm so far out. And I'll say, okay, what are you looking to do? I do what's called a needs analysis, if that makes sense, and try to figure out what they need and fit the perfect portfolio for them. It's different for everybody, but having a conversation is never a bad thing.
For an example, say I'm looking to buy a home in 2 to 3 years, but I've never bought a home before. I don't know anything about
Sure.
real estate. What's your advice?
Well, I'd say you're not alone. So, funny enough, when I started selling homes 4 years ago, the median home buyer age for first time homeowners, it was 35. In the 4 years that I've been practicing, that number's moved up to 42. So if you feel like you're behind, you're not. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Those first homeowners nationally are buying when they're 42 years old. And it's really because buying a home now can seem rather unaffordable. But I tell you, there is creative ways to get in and get started. And I think everybody should have that discussion about getting started, because home prices of homes probably will continue to rise. But maybe that advice to you is just come have the conversation, because you don't know what you don't know.
So if somebody does come to you early to start conversation about buying a home, what do they actually gain from that conversation?
I mean, realistically, hopefully, clarity, if I did my job right. I don't think anyone's ever came to me and said, wow, I didn't learn a thing. Typically, it's, oh my gosh, there's so much I learned from this conversation. And it might just be like drinking from a fire hose. You might only get a few drops and a lot of it may fall off, but the more times you have these conversations, the more that's going to stick with you.
And then is there a downside of waiting too long to have that conversation?
Sure. Everyone's got different circumstances, and I'm not going to pretend that every one situation is the same. But from that, say you were financially ready to buy a home, and you just kind of put it off. There may be a home that hits the market that met everything you needed, but you may have missed out on that. And realistically, I always say there's another home. There always will be, but inventory is much tighter than it was pre-pandemic levels. So there is a good chance that home that you're looking at right now, you might see it on Zillow, because everyone likes to shop Zillow. I mean, it's cool just to see what's available. Everybody can relate to real estate. Everyone lives in a house. They love houses. Either they love design, or some people, it's just a place to lay their head. But overall, you saw that home on Zillow and you're like, man, I really like that house. Well, we didn't have the early conversation. You weren't pre-approved for the home loan, but you really want that house. You say, Blake, I really want this house. I'm like, okay, let's see about an offer. We can see it, but we really got to get you pre-approved first, because your offer doesn't hold any weight. So in the meantime, while we're fiddling around trying to get your finances in order, someone comes in and makes an offer on that home and gets it under contract. There's your potential negative. Because when you see the right home, if you didn't take the steps ahead of time to be ready and pre-approved to buy that home, you probably are going to miss out.
For somebody who has never bought a home before, or say you have a young buyer coming in that doesn't know much, when you say pre-approval, for a loan, what are the best steps to take to get pre-approved or to get that loan approval?
Yeah, so I heard this explained the other day, probably better than I can even explain it. So I'm going to explain it this way. Um, this was from an agent who particularly works with first-time home buyers for the most part, and whenever they're having their first buyer consultation, they start asking their buyer some financial questions. Now, as a realtor, um, our job is to understand your situation, but we're also not going to be able to know what a bank is willing to lend to you. We have partners we work with. We're willing to work with any lenders, but we're going to be able to connect you with the right person overall. But the way this realtor explained it, he said, when you go to buy a car, because most people have bought a car, I would say, um, you go out to the car lot and the salesman says, hey, you want to take a ride in this car? You take a ride, you fall in love, and then they try to get the financing in place. And they can do this because their financing is not as governed as our financing is. And they can usually get you a loan. It may have a really high interest rate, but they can usually get you a loan. Versus with home ownership, we actually are going to search that financing up front so we know what you can afford. So we'll connect you with the right lender. They're going to have you probably fill out an application. It typically does do a hard credit pull. Good thing about a hard credit pull, though, it's good for a year, typically. And lenders in the comments, you can tell me if that was right or wrong, but I know for a fact that I have a lender that will only pull my credit once a year. I use it for my investment properties. I'll keep using that lender, so I only have to do one hard pull on my credit. So yeah, that's really what pre-approval is. Now you know what you can afford, and we can specifically say, okay, we know what you can afford, what's your wants, what's your needs, and we go start the search.